Welcome back to Podiatry Marketing. My name's Tyson Franklin, and with me today is my co-host, Jim McDannald. How are you doing this morning, Jim?
Tyson, I'm really good. It's such a plain, calm, collected intro. I'm almost like,
You were waiting for it,
I
weren't
was
you?
like, what's it going to be this time? But I appreciate, I like all your intros, so I'm not disappointed, but I did definitely, was taken a little bit by surprise there. So, that's okay.
I was looking at your face. I'm thinking, I could just see the look on your face thinking, what am I going to say this morning? So I thought, you know what? I'm going to say nothing. I'm just going to introduce you professionally for a change. And I knew they'd totally throw you.
Totally. I'm just totally thrown off now.
Okay, that's right. So what are we talking about today? What is on today's menu?
Yeah, so we're going to talk about something probably every podiatrist and every high school student or college student, anyone that loves to get in front of a crowd. We're going to talk about public speaking today and why should you consider it? Like, what are some ways to go about think about a topic? Who should you talk to? And why is it an important thing to build a practice or just to gain expert? Be seen as the expert in your local area or even internationally, for example.
I tell you, I used to pack my decks when it came to public speaking. I managed to get through primary school, high school, and university without ever getting up and doing a speech. I was just absolutely terrified. So I must have been the only person. I was sports captain, and I didn't turn up for the presentation night because I knew we had won things.
Yeah,
it's just terrible.
I was that person at podiatry school, or even when I was in practice, just like going to conferences, sitting in the audience, and being very glad that I was not the person on stage. But you'll be surprised though once you find something that you really enjoy doing, or you definitely want to be known for. Like how that will sometimes change. Doesn't necessarily make it any easier or doesn't require any less practice, but at least you have something to kind of get you over that hump potentially. So
I think that's a big thing. It's finding a topic that you're comfortable to talk about. So at high school, primary school, university, they were pretty much forcing me to talk about something that I didn't want to talk about. I felt there was other people in the room that were more qualified at talking about that subject. So I felt like a bit of a dill actually doing it. But and I think what happens is that created this fear of public speaking that I took way into adulthood, into my late 20s, early 30s, that I still was just petrified. And then all of a sudden, I just started doing it and realized that, I don't know, I think, like you said, when you find something that you want to talk about, it's a lot easier.
no, for sure. I think for me, it was like not only find something that I felt knowledgeable about, maybe a little bit differently. Like you said, someone that's been doing surgery for 20 or 25 years, and then I'm going to go and talk about a similar procedure on stage. There's a certain amount of anxiety or imposter syndrome, maybe, to get up on stage and talk about something like that. But for me, it was when I, kind of got into digital marketing. I saw actually a need for my colleagues and fellow podiatrists to kind of get the edge on some of these like shady marketing agencies. I felt like I was doing a service that was really helping people. So like, I almost felt like I was doing a disservice by not talking about it. So whether that's, whatever the topic is, once that switch is kind of flipped, like you don't see the world or you don't see speaking in the same way. Is it still like, am I like dying to get in front of like, post COVID, it's going to be interesting to be out actually talking at in real, live events and in front of real people. Cause I've been staring at cameras, talking on Zoom, it helps, but it's not the same thing as having that energy of a crowd or those live questions and answers sessions. But, I think it's once you kind of like, you go down that rabbit hole or that switch is flipped, you're like, okay, like that's something I need to do now, not necessarily that's something I have to do.
I just think it opens so many doors. I tell people now that if you don't like public speaking, it's unfortunate because it opens so many doors that you don't even know need opening. So I used to think I could just hide, never have to do any public speaking. And I remember the first one I ever did, a doctor contacted me and said, "Oh, we need someone to do this sports medicine subject. Can you do it?" And for some reason I said yes. I don't know why. But I'm so glad I did, because it was the beginning of me getting over this fear. So I did this talk, and I took a 45-minute talk and turned it into 4 minutes. It was a very rushed version of it. I reckon I burped. I probably farted. It was terrible. I walked out of the room and I sat there and just go, guys, I was so bad. Anyway, the doctor came out, puts his hand on my shoulder, and I thought, he's going to tell me, Tyson, you weren't as bad as what you thought. Puts his hand on my shoulder and he says, Tyson, that was the worst presentation I've ever seen in my life. If anyone ever asks you to do public speaking again, please, for everybody else's sake, say no. And he left. I went, huh. Well, if that's as bad as I could get, I can only improve. So I just kept doing it and hated every minute of it until I figured out the secret was what you said right at the start, is speak about what you enjoy and speak about what you love doing.
Yeah.
That's the secret.
As people love doing it, and definitely like, you're providing value to other people, right? Like, I think it's sometimes you get on stage, you see people on stage, and for better, for worse, like, they're kind of shilling like a product, or they're shilling something that doesn't really feel like it's coming from the heart or from like a good place, or will develop kind of a win-win dynamic with the talk. So I think that stuff is pretty transparent. But yeah, like, it's just, once you're helping people, you're speaking about what you love, like, then it doesn't feel as much like work. And that, the nervousness or the stage fright, or am I going to, totally screw this up? Those feelings like will still always kind of be there, but like, you're willing to confront those feelings, or, get past them for that half an hour or 45-minute talk. So yeah, I think like I said, it's a thrill and it's a rush to be up on stage too. There's definitely some, adrenaline rush you get from having that interaction with people. And I'm super excited to kind of do some more in the future.
Oh, it's one of those things that I did a talk in Liverpool a couple of years back, 2019, 1,000 people in the crowd. And I got up there and I'm thinking, I wish I had worn my brown pants today. Oh, it's like, geez, that's a big crowd. So, but once I got into it, once you go through the first 60 seconds and you start getting a roll going on. And I think the last live one I did last year, June last year, I did one for a dental group. It was about 250 people. Same thing though. It's an adrenaline rush. And somebody said to me once, if you're not nervous going up on stage, then it means you don't care. You've got to be that little bit of nerves that come through, and it means you actually care about what you're about to talk. But I reckon the other tip is realizing outside of podiatry, any group that you're talking to about podiatry, you know the subject better than anybody else. So if you're talking to a group of independent retirees, believe me, you know more about podiatry than anybody else in that room. If you're talking to a group of physios, a group of doctors, a GP, general practitioners, you know more about whatever it is you're about to talk about than them. So never feel intimidated. And that's the part, you know, if you're a podiatrist, you know your stuff. So you can share it with the public quite easily.
No, that's a great point. I definitely agree with that. Like, it can kind of get past that imposter syndrome, especially if you're not in front of peers. It's when sometimes, when people are in front of their peers, that's probably the most nervous.
Oh, no, I don't like doing that. I'd hate that. It just, like, I see people up on stage and they might be talking about, the windlass mechanism and all this sort of stuff, and all that. They're talking about a particular subject in podiatry. And I'm up there listening to them, and whether I agree or disagree, I sort of go, I don't want to get up there and talk about podiatry, because there's a ton of other people that could probably do it, who probably know the subject maybe better than I do. I don't think they can perform it as funny as what I do. I like to think I'm entertaining when I'm on stage, but when it comes to marketing and business, just give me an invite and I'm there. I absolutely love it.
Perfect.
And I'm sure you're the same.
I definitely I'm pretty loose on stage. It's been a little while, but I definitely look forward to jumping back up there.
You're a loose cannon, eh?
Not as loose as you are up there, I'm sure, but in my own ways, it takes me a little bit longer to get warmed up. But when it comes to, I guess, looking for a topic, right? Like that's.
Yeah, I was going to ask you that. I was going to say, what topics, if people want to do public speaking, what are some good topics, or how should they approach that?
Yeah. Well, like you talked about, right? Like talk about what you know, talk about what you love, talk about what you can help. But some ways of drilling down a little bit further into that is, you know, if you're talking to a specific audience, like what's that ideal patient? You would be like, let's say like, you want to be the running sports medicine doctor, or you want to take care of soccer or football players. It makes a lot of sense to talk on those type of topics, like really have some different sports medicine injury topics, so whatever your wheelhouse is from an ideal patient
Yeah.
perspective, that's something you can do. Obviously as well, like, if you are that, hot shot foot and ankle surgeon who's doing, trauma, or maybe you just love doing ingrown toenails and you have a new way of doing it. If it's something procedural related, or you're doing something kind of cutting edge or new, that's definitely an area you could focus on as well. And then last but not least, there's areas outside of clinical practice. For example, you and me, we like, podiatry marketing, things like practice management. There's all kinds of topics that people like that aren't necessarily just the clinical side of the practice, where, there are opportunities to speak. It's a matter of just like, like we talked about in previous episodes of the show, what kind of patients do you want to treat? What are you good at treating? And what is that thing you would want to see all day come into your practice? And that's a great kind of area to start off with the topic of, speaking to different types of folks, which we'll get into here in a little bit.
And I think it's important for people to realize too, if you're in front of two people, you're public speaking. So public speaking doesn't necessarily mean you have to jump up on a stage and be talking to a room full of people. If you're turning up at a doctor's surgery and there's 3 other doctors there and maybe a physio, is like you said, what do you like doing more of? So therefore, go to them and talk about that particular subject. Don't talk about all the other aspects of podiatry if that's of no interest to you, because one, you're not going to feel comfortable talking about it. But if it's something that really interests you, you're probably going to be more passionate about that. And that will actually come through when you're talking.
No, that's exactly right. I think that's a huge component of, what we're trying to do when we get up on stage, is to like have those topics that really connect with people, right? We're not just kind of like I said, we're not just shilling what we're doing. It's like, how do we help move them forward and give them information that's going to be beneficial to them and they'll get a lot of value from. So,
so what type of groups should people be talking to?
Yeah. So I think like some different groups that people can be talking to is that, like I said, and you kind of develop that message, your topics, your message, what do you want to get out there? And then, like you said, like, who are you going to connect that message to? And the way you talk about the topic is going to really vary between the audience that you're in front of, right? So for number one, like, there's kind of that local aspect, those local opportunities to speak in front of folks. So, those are the first level, is kind of that patient level, right? Maybe you're going to, like you said, like a senior care facility or a seniors event, or maybe you're at a local running shoe store, or you're doing something where, you're talking to you're kind of in front of patients and you're talking about a very specific type of thing that you're kind of the expert in. Yeah. So that might lead to new patient visits. That might lead to word of mouth referrals. So there's a lot of different things that can happen when you're kind of in front of those patients. The next step is kind of like, let's say it's like related businesses. And I guess I touched on it real quickly there already, but like maybe it's a local shoe store. Maybe it's, like an AFO or an orthotic, like a custom or, AFO maker that, someone you have a kind of a business relationship with, but maybe they want to have something, there's a foot drop night and you can talk about how you treat foot drop, or how you're working with that business to improve the lives of people. So, being kind of a value add to that business will maybe lead to more referrals, and just, like I said, spreading your expertise in front of people that may not either know what you do or who you are, but just gaining some general awareness in the local business community can be a big thing. The next step beyond that is kind of other healthcare providers, right? So maybe it's physical therapists or physios or chiropractors or family medicine doctors, or just a wide variety of other healthcare providers where, maybe you're part of a local hospital conference. Maybe you're worked with someone at a marathon medical tent, like an MD or an orthopedic doc that, he doesn't do feet, but he would like to have, your expertise at a local event and partner with. So there's different ways to kind of like spread that network, and then build a name for yourself amongst those other local healthcare provider. So then they're referring patients to you, you're referring patients to them. It's a great way to
Mm,
network with other local healthcare providers. And last but not least is, having opportunities to speak with other podiatrists locally. Maybe that's your state association. You're kind of showing people in your region, or within your state, what you do, how you maybe do things a little bit different than them. Maybe you have some niche expertise that they would like to send patients to you. If it's not too far away, if you don't live in a huge state. So that's kind of that first level, just kind of like, you know, these local talks, whether it be with patients, related businesses, other healthcare providers, or your podiatry
what
colleagues.
about on a bigger scale? If you wanted to go, oh no, I want to go bigger than that. What other areas do you think people could actually talk in?
Yeah, so I mean, definitely that's kind of the local area. But if you want to go more regional, national, or international and really be seen as like a high level expert, there's definitely ways to go about doing that. I know that there's some of my classmates now that are kind of on a speaking scene with medical device manufacturers. Maybe they do like these anatomy labs about how to do a new type of surgical procedure, or they're kind of a spokesperson for these different medical device companies.
Yeah.
Obviously, you want to be associated with high quality products. You don't want to just, like I said, shill without, only for the money. You want to make sure that's something that does provide true patient value. But that's one way is sometimes if you do see value in a procedure, like there's a lot of kind of new ways of doing bunions or bunion surgeries or hardware associated with those. Maybe you really like one. You can reach out to those folks, say you've done 50 procedures with them, and maybe they see value in adding you to their speaker roster. It's a way of like earning some additional income, but also kind of like broadcasting your expertise amongst your colleagues is one way of seeing it.
No, I think that's all. And I do think when you're starting out in public speaking, if you're not very comfortable with it, you start small. I mean, local
Mhm.
could be your next door neighbor, but just start really small and gradually just build up over a period of time and pick really safe subjects to begin with, then start expanding upon the topics that you're going to talk about. I think sometimes people have this fear that they've got to jump in front of 100 people straight away. And I don't think you should do that. I couldn't. But also there's a lot of free opportunities. And if you get good at it, then eventually there could be some paid opportunities to actually speak. And there was a guy that I was listening to on a podcast, and he said he did over 200 free talks before he ever got paid. He said then once he got paid big bucks, which I thought was funny. And I think the other tip I would give people is practice, practice, and practice some more. And when you think you've got it nailed, practice. Just constantly be practicing what you're going to say, the timing you're going to say things. And a tip that somebody gave me once, they said, for every half hour talk you want to do, have a 20-minute version, have a 10-minute version. And they said, because sometimes you are planning on, oh, I'm going to do a 20-minute talk. And they go, oh, yes, you've got half an hour. And you're like, what the? I thought I only had 20 minutes. I've got to talk for an extra 10. So, or other times you're planning for a 30-minute talk and you get them to say, oh, just let you know the other speaker's been running late. Can you do it in 20? And you've got to be able to cut it back, because if they're trying to save time and you can adapt to them really easily, you'll get invited back. If they tell you it's 20 minutes and you go 45 minutes, it's a quick way to get uninvited to future events as well.
Point. I think, when I was talking about local, I was talking probably more your locals, your local state association, but,
Yeah.
especially in the US, right? Like there's 50 states. So like, I think I was not like that guy. I did not do 200 talks before I did my first one. I think I got paid on my first talk, and then I just jumped around to a bunch of states to do some talks online back in 2020. But
Yeah.
there's no right or wrong way about doing it. And, there's lots of opportunities out there for people that I think, like I said, like if you went to podiatry school in the US, even like in Canada, they're always looking for speakers. Like, if you have a good topic and, you're relatively, you do the best job that you can, I think that, it just takes practice to kind of get sharpened up, to a level that you feel comfortable, and then they're happy that you spoke as well. So I think that's, a great opportunity there. Beyond the medical companies, I will say that, as you kind of connect, like obviously you can connect with your podiatry colleagues, but you can also connect with
Yeah.
these like, if there's a sports medicine physio or a physical therapist that after you've done some other stuff with physical therapists, you think you like this person's work, you can reach out to them. It just kind of like, form kind of a professional, relationship with other people kind of nationally or internationally. And as that kind of organic relationship where you're writing research papers or you're doing stuff with other people, like all these kinds of opportunities will kind of open up. So, whether it's speaking at a national sports medicine conference or maybe it's like, you're talking about like diabetes. I know like David Armstrong is a big guy within
Yeah.
podiatry in the US to talk about diabetes. And he's kind of like speaking at all kinds of different conferences that aren't just like the APMA or ACFAS. So there are ways to get on different, like speaking, circuits based on what you're, providing. And then also like, there's also the different types of podiatry meetings, whether it's US based podiatry meetings, going down to Australia, going to Canada, Europe. There's lots of opportunities internationally as well. So it is sometimes to get those gigs, you do have to like kind of be a domain expert, or you have to offer something that's a little bit different. But with time, effort, and like I said, kind of knowing what you want to talk about and really nailing your message and providing great care or whatever topic, or becoming an expert in whatever topic you want to talk about, you'll kind of separate yourself from other people over time.
Yeah. And one thing I'll add to that too is if you want to speak somewhere, sometimes you've got to put the effort in. You can't expect everyone to come to you. You've got to
Yeah.
go to these different organizations and say, hey, I want to speak. I spoke in British Columbia in Powell River of all places. And I was going there to visit some friends. So I thought, I'm going to go there. Wouldn't it be great if I could do a speaking gig at the same time? Because I'll have to travel and you tax deductible as well if you can. So I wrote to their Chamber of Commerce and I said, look, I'm coming into town. I said, I've written a book and I want to do a marketing tour. Would you be interested? So they wrote back to me and said, that'd be fantastic. They said, we don't have a lunch on that week that you're here, but we'll put one on. I went, oh, okay, that's good. So next thing, then my friend rings me up about 2 weeks later. Oh, about 2 weeks before I get there. He sends me an email, says, you're in the paper today. I said, what do you mean? They said, it says, international speaker from Australia is going to be at the Chamber of Commerce lunch talking about the 6 pillars of marketing. Oh, okay. A week out, no, I'm in the paper again the following, because I only did paper once a week. I was in the paper again about international speaker and author turning up in Powell River. So I said, how many people are normally at your meetings? They said, we usually 12, 15. It's not big. We're only a small little mill town. I rock up, 50 people have booked. The mayor of the town was there to meet me because I was this international speaker that had come in. And it was an unbelievable, it was probably one of the most fun I've ever had doing a talk, because there's a live group, they're having lunch at the same time. And I actually took that recording and I released it as a podcast episode on It's No Secret with Dr. T. That was live in Powell River. So going back to what I was originally saying was sometimes you've got to make the first move, make contact with people, tell them the topic, and they may say no the first time, but just keep nurturing that relationship and keep putting the feelers out there, because the more work you put out there, then eventually the work will come back.
No, 100%. I think that's a great point. And honestly, that's how I got my first few speaking gigs. People did track me down, right? There were certain places I wanted to go speak at. And I was really kind of doing that legwork will go a long way.
Yeah. Have you ever had the mayor of the town meet you at one of your speeches to do a meet and greet?
I have.
I thought I was going to get to cut a ribbon or something.
I have not had that. I was excited to go to I think was it Wichita, Kansas, to go see some of my classmates who actually practice in the state. But
Yeah.
that was during my 2020 Zoom tour. So I'm looking forward to maybe meeting a mayor of a town one of these days.
I just thought it was what I've really loved about public speaking, and this is what it goes back to when I said right at the beginning, you don't know what doors public speaking is going to open for you until you actually go through that first door. And like I said, I was terrified for the first 30 years of my life. And I look at all the opportunities I probably missed out on because of that fear of just not getting up there and doing it. But then for some reason I realized if I wanted to be successful in my podiatry clinic. And I had no plans on that. I was going to be speaking in front of 1,000 people down the track. You just got to get over that fear, and you got to learn how to do it. And I just think it's practice, and more practice, like I said before.
Yeah, it's practice and finding that topic that you actually will get you over the hump, right? I think until you know what you want to talk about, and what is worthy of being practiced, like it doesn't always click for people. Sometimes there's going to be people sitting in the audience forever, and that's okay. But once you do find that thing, like you said, practice, get better at it, and then do the legwork, and you'll be surprised all the doors that open up when you really make an effort with public speaking.
Yeah, and just weird opportunities. I did a great debate a couple of years ago, where it's a mock great debate. We get dressed up in costumes, and it's to raise money for charity. So I was I was part of the Genovese crime family, and so it was like I was the head of the mafia, and I had to do a 6-minute monologue of me just getting up there. If someone had told me that when I was 30 that I would have done that, no way. But it's one of those things that you just gradually build up. And another tip, I think, for people that are going to do public speak is have visual prompts, is have things that remind you of what, because one of my fears was I wouldn't remember what to say, and then I'd be standing there looking stupid.
Mm-hmm.
And a friend said to me, one of the easy things to do is have friggin' notes in your hand. Yeah, have palm cards to keep you on track of what you're going to do, or have a sheet of paper and just say to them, I've just got this in front of me because I don't want you to miss out on anything. And use these prompts. I use PowerPoint presentations a lot, purely to keep my brain in check of what I'm supposed to be talking about. Otherwise, I'm off. I'm all over the place.
Those are all helpful things for sure.
Like a cat in a sack. I'm everywhere. So Jim, have you got anything else you want to add to this before we wrap up?
Like I said, I was a very reluctant speaker, but I'm very happy that I've kind of taken the plunge. So I definitely encourage anyone that has a slight inkling to find that topic, find a place to definitely practice, but then jump up on stage and see it, and kind of give it a turn and see what you think of it.
Yeah, make sure you wear brown pants. That's my final tip. Okay, Jim, I'll talk to you next week.
Sounds great, Tyson.
Bye now. Bye.